Hi everyone, I'm excited to introduce our CVPR 2025 work titled One-Step Event-Driven High-Speed Autofocus. In extreme low-light scenes, traditional frame-based autofocus often leads to poor user experiences. These methods rely on capturing multiple preview frames around the focus position, analyzing their contrast one by one, and only then determining the optimal focus. However, in dark conditions, those preview frames often suffer from low frame rates, low signal-to-noise ratios, and motion blur, all of which slow down the focusing process dramatically. In some cases, this even leads to repeated focus hunting. Event cameras respond to brightness changes with extremely high temporal resolution, which makes them well-suited for high-speed autofocus in challenging scenes. However, unlike frame-based cameras, event cameras do not provide absolute intensity information. As a result, conventional contrast-based focus evaluation methods cannot be directly applied to determine the focus position. In our previous work, we observed that during the full focus sweep, from defocus to focus and then back to defocus, the polarity of events generated at a given point tends to reverse. For a given region of interest, the rate of positive and negative events is symmetric around the focus position. By analyzing this symmetry across the entire focus stack, we can accurately and efficiently estimate the optimal focus by identifying the center of symmetry in the event polarity rate. However, polarity-based autofocus still requires a full symmetric sweep to collect a complete focus stack. After collecting the data, the system searches for the optimal focus position and then drives the motor to that position. This process remains relatively lengthy and still involves one full round of focus hunting. Previous event-driven autofocus algorithms typically perform focus search after collecting the full set of focus events. This led us to ask a fundamental question. Can we detect the focus position during the event collection process itself? If so, we could stop the focus motor as soon as we detect the focus position, without overshooting into defocus and moving back. Even better, such a method could also indicate the focusing direction, preventing the motor from drifting away from the correct focus direction. We call this idea one-step autofocus. Let's take a closer look at how events are generated during focusing. As we move toward the focus position, the dark side of an edge tends to trigger negative events. When defocusing, that same location instead triggers positive events. More precisely, the brightness changes that occur during focusing are influenced by both the Laplacian of the image and the direction of focus. Based on the previous insight, we now analyze the relationship between event generation and the image Laplacian in a mathematical form. During the focusing process, we assume that the size of the defocus blur kernel varies linearly with time. The defocus image GXT can be expressed as the convolution of the sharp in-focus image FXT with the defocus kernel HXT. We then examine two quantities, the temporal derivative and the spatial second-order derivative. Interestingly, these two expressions share a similar structure. If we multiply them pointwise and integrate over the entire image, we obtain a function s of t, and crucially, the sign of st is completely determined by the sign of alpha, the direction of focus. In event-driven autofocus, the event frame approximates the temporal derivative, and the image Laplacian corresponds to the spatial second derivative. To approximate st, we introduce a practical formulation called the event Laplacian Product, or ELP. Just like st, the sign of the ELP value indicates the focusing direction. When ELP is positive, it implies that alpha is negative, meaning the image is getting sharper. We're moving toward the focus. When ELP is negative, it indicates defocusing. We can locate the focus position by detecting the sign mutation in the ELP value. That is, when the value flips from positive to negative. This enables real-time focus detection during motor movement, eliminating the need to first collect a full focus stack and then search through it. In other words, it allows us to achieve true one-step autofocus. Here we demonstrate the real-time performance of our method using a Davis 346. Under moderate lighting conditions, Davis 346 provides a grayscale frame rate of up to 50 fps. We compute the current ELP value using the most recent grayscale frame and event data accumulated over a 2 millisecond interval. As soon as the ELP value switches from positive to negative, we immediately stop the focus motor, indicating that the optimal focus position has been reached. This real-time detection loop runs at up to 500 Hz, enabling fast and accurate autofocus without needing to sweep across the entire focus stack. In darker environments, the grayscale frame rate drops, but this does not significantly affect the accuracy of focus detection. In our ELP-based method, grayscale information is essential. Devices like the Davis 346, which integrate a CIS, can provide grayscale frames along with event data. But for event-only sensor, such as the Prophecy EVK4, how can we obtain grayscale information? Our previous work shows that during aperture opening, a burst of initial positive events is generated due to active brightness change. By applying event temporal mapping to these events, a high dynamic range grayscale image can be reconstructed. This initial defocused grayscale frame provides enough spatial second derivative information to support the ELP computation, even in the absence of a conventional frame sensor. We integrate the event temporal mapping technique into a full event-only one-step autofocus pipeline and build a complete experimental setup to validate it. The motorized lens is responsible not only for the focus motion, but also for initiating the autofocus process by opening the aperture from a closed state. The pipeline consists of two stages, the aperture opening stage and the focusing stage. During the first stage, EVTEM-MAP transforms the initial positive events into a high dynamic range grayscale image. Once the region of interest is selected, the system enters the focusing stage, where it computes the ELP value using the grayscale image and the stream of real-time focus events. The focus motor stops when the system detects a sign mutation in the ELP, indicating the optimal focus position has been reached. This slide demonstrates the event-only one-step autofocus process on our EVK4 dataset. With this pipeline, there's no need for repeated focus sweeping and searching, and no need for artificial reference targets like focus stars. The system enables fast and accurate autofocus directly in natural scenes. We also compare our method with existing event-driven autofocus approaches. Our proposed ELP method not only achieves significantly higher focusing accuracy, but also reduces the overall focusing time by 2/3. The proposed ELP method opens up a range of possibilities for focus-related applications. First, it enables high-speed autofocus for event cameras. Second, it can assist traditional cameras in low-light environments, providing fast and reliable focus. Finally, by performing focus detection across different spatial locations, ELP can be extended to depth from focus applications, enabling monocular sparse depth estimation. Thank you for watching. You can find more details and code on our project page. The link is shown on the screen.